I am an enemy of modesty because for me personally, I have always been very modest. If I achieved something, talked it smaller because I never thought that I could achieve anything with a real worth, especially in comparison to others. So when I achieved something, I always thought, okay, yes, but that's something everyone does. And this is a huge journey for me to not just understand, but to respect that I am achieving things that many people are not achieving. On the other hand, there's plenty of things that I am not capable of, and that's totally okay. But it's also okay to respect myself for achieving things that other people cannot do.
Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Bleeding Metal podcast. I'm Kiki, your host. My pronouns are she, her, and it is time for another Podfriend episode. Today I'm here with Bernie.
Hi, I'm Bernie. I'm Bernie. My pronouns are he, his, and I'm from Germany. What more can I say?
You could tell us about your band, your podcast, which I was recently in 2 episodes of, which was super exciting.
In 2 and more are following in the future. Yes, sure. A little bit more about myself. I am 44 already, and I have been playing in a band called GODSLAVE, which can be seen here right now, represent for, let's say, 18 years or something like that.
Wow.
I think we have been founded 2008. So yes, that should be 18 years. And in the band, I am the guitarist and I am doing most of the management duties. So I'm involved in practically almost everything besides equipment questions because I don't want to be involved in that. I have no idea what they are doing. And I have a podcast called The Band Show, which is a podcast about the music business, about the metal scene, about several topics, music rights on one hand, and on the other hand, about human rights, which we have been discussing.
Yeah.
Everything has a place there that's relevant for bands, musicians.
It's super interesting. However, if I remember correctly, you did not start the podcast.
Exactly. The Band Show was founded 2020 or 21, I'm not sure, by Murphy. Shout out to Murphy, who became a band coach in this time and created the podcast for, I would say, promoting his skills as a band coach. But it developed really fast, and I began to listen to the podcast, I don't know, 21 or 22, and listen to every episode. And there came the time, I think it was 23, I'm not sure, 22 or 23. He struggled a little bit with himself and did a little bit too much and had to change some stuff. And he decided that he didn't want to quit the podcast, but he asked the community if there would be anybody interested in taking over. And several people, myself included, said, yes, we would be interested. And so the Band Show developed as a community podcast with around 4 or 5 hosts. And as time goes by, and you know it yourself, everyone playing music and creating stuff knows it by themselves. Several people come down to one. And I am the left main host. I have Basti, which I'm actually at the moment creating a spin-off called Release Breakdown because our bands GODSLAVE and Empire of Giants are releasing new albums this year or the beginning of next year. And we thought let's talk about it in small bits around 20 minutes to help us on this road and get new impulses.
Yeah.
But I'm at the moment the main host of the Band Show.
And that is actually how we met. And fun fact about the Band Show, back in, I honestly did not really know the podcast back until my friend and co-founder, also former co-host of this podcast, Pia. She is very tuned into the German metal scene and she always recommends people on podcasts. And I feel like every German metal podcast mentions her every now and then. She sent me a post by the band show in 2022, I think, in the summer of 2022. Saying that they were looking for new co-hosts. So I remember being in touch with Murphy back then already. For some reason or other, we never really got to actually call or anything like that. And then most recently, it was also Pia who put the two of us in touch because I had sent her the press kit from my band, Embercoal, and she liked it and thought you would talk about it, I guess. So I jumped on an episode with you and Tobias from Power Metal DE, and who also has a band or two.
At least 2, I think.
3 even? Yeah.
Yes.
And so we talked about promotion and press kits and communication, a bit of marketing for bands on your podcast, The Band Show. So for all the German speakers, I will link those episodes in the show notes. That's how we met. And it's funny because to put this all in like context, the planning of that first episode, when we started chatting about it and looking to schedule it, I was in Ecuador last year. That was a year ago. I was in Ecuador and it was like difficult to find a date and a time because of the time difference as well. We ended up doing it in August. We ended up recording it in August when I had just moved to Helsinki. And that is also different time zone than Germany, but it's a little easier to find a common time. 2025 was a lot of change for me, and it was interesting to just focus on the work and on the metal scene, and also because it helped me, I think, kind of talk about myself, because when so much is changing, for me at least, it was difficult to define myself, to introduce myself to other people, to other audiences even. Yes, I'm still a vocalist. Yes, I'm still a journalist. Now I'm the only host of the Bleeding Metal podcast. So that is new.
Yep.
And to be communicating that to the outside. And so on the second episode, just a few months ago, when you asked me, who is the Bleeding Metal podcast now? I think it just then, after all of the changes and all of the things, it hit me like, yeah, it's actually just me now. It was part of the whole process of changing, for example, the description. For all of you out there listening, if you scroll down on your podcatcher and read the description, now it says it's produced and edited by me and no one else. There's no other name there.
Yes. Yes.
And
yes.
It was funny because I started this whole medium back in 2013 with Pia, and it was always a team thing. And to all of a sudden be the only one, it was a process of unpacking the fear of, am I even able to make it alone? Am I going to pull this off? A bunch of months have passed where I have actually been releasing an episode every week alone. And it feels good to have proven it to myself only, because I don't have to prove it to anyone, but to know that I can do this alone. And I think maybe you can relate on that. I don't know if you've went through a similar process.
Thank you for saying that, because that triggered two things I am thinking about, or I have been thinking about for quite a while now, positively triggered. The first thing being a constant state of change and being yourself in that, or finding yourself in that. And the second part is modesty. I will start with modesty because I am a huge, I wouldn't say an enemy of modesty, but I would say it for clickbait reasons. I am an enemy of modesty because for me personally, I have always been very modest. If I achieved something, I talked it smaller. Because I never thought that I could achieve anything with a real worth, especially in comparison to others. So when I achieved something, I always thought, okay, yes, but that's something everyone does. And this is a huge journey for me to not just understand, but to respect that I am achieving things that many people are not achieving. On the other hand, there's plenty of things that I am not capable of, and that's totally okay. But it's also okay to respect myself for achieving things that other people cannot do. Therefore, I'm at the moment saying I am enemy of modesty. That may change again, but I personally think if you want to have a balance, you have to experience everything. So you have experienced the highest high and the lowest low, because otherwise you have no idea where the balance is. Where's the middle? I mean, to really feel the middle, you have to see where are the borders. So that's the first thing. So I think it is not just okay, but it is crucial to say, if it is so, that you're the only person to do that. Because it's the truth. You are doing this, and if you would stop, then everything would stop. Saying this, I'm always talking about we when I write the text or the show notes, etc. But I know I am the one, doing it. And the second part is finding an authentic self in a constant state of change. Last week, I did an interview with Lenny from Dust Bolt, and he talked about their record Sound and Fury, which was different to the records before, not so much old school thrash metal like before. And they wrote it during the pandemic. He explained a lot about why this was the right step. We compared it with Metallica, Load, Reload, and Anger and stuff, and how important this was for the possibility to be authentic again. Come back to an authentic self in the framework that you know the band, because nothing is more authentic than doing something completely different when you know that you will receive a ton of shit over your head. And I said, okay, yes, I don't think that we are where we can say, okay, this will be a change and the change will be over and then we'll see about that. Change is always happening and it will never stop. And we have no idea what's coming.
True.
Maybe it is something that comes with age. I hope that it's for everyone out there that it comes pretty early. But I've been asking all the old timers in the podcast, being it Sodom and Holy Moses, Rage, Gravedigger, etc. What is the one advice that they would give? And they all independently said, be authentic. Just do what you really feel you want to do.
Yeah.
And this is it. I mean, this is the basis of everything. If you find your authentic self, then no matter what's coming, you stand on the ground and you are not to be pushed away or pushed to the ground by anything that's coming.
Oh my, now we're going to have two parallel topics the whole time. Because I also want to go back to the first thing and then back to the other.
Yeah, well, there is no small talk. I hate small talk.
I think I skipped the whole part when I also ask my guests to tell me their life story. And we can also get to that. We can put a pin on that because
definitely.
I am interested in. It's super cool to hear that from someone else, because I have also been like recollecting the stories of musicians that I have been interviewing and the things that they repeat. And it's funny because there are common threads sometimes. And one of the threads is that, like you were saying, be authentic, stay true to yourself, follow your dreams. You have to be the biggest fan of your own band, because otherwise, why should anyone else listen to it? And stuff like that. With the women in metal, it's interesting also to see the threads and the similarities, to see how we collect the, this is the best job, because that's, I get to learn from colleagues. I get to learn from artists that have made it to such amazing successes in their careers. And I get to live out my curiosity and ask people questions to learn from them and to relish in their wisdom. It's super cool. Another thing, to go back to your first point, that a lot of artists also share is this imposter syndrome. I have heard a lot I heard it from Eminence, I heard it from Bukovi, for example, that at some point as an artist, you just keep chasing the next thing, the better thing, the bigger shows, the bigger crowds, the bigger festivals, whatever. And you forget, or you don't really see what you have achieved and all the milestones that you actually have gotten. And yeah, I think it might be also a cultural thing. I think indeed in Sweden, for example, modesty is super important, and like bragging is the worst.
Between modesty and bragging, there is a whole universe,
Absolutely.
So therefore, I'm saying I'm an enemy of modesty, but I'm not a friend of bragging.
That is true, but I think also culturally, as a global society, even more difficult for women, and women suffer from imposter syndrome way more. So I do absolutely, I'm trying to make it a habit of not only expressing appreciation, but also lifting other people up. Okay, take a second to recognize what you have accomplished. There are all these factors that can make that more difficult. And I would say that men in general have a little easier time with that. Then I also talk with very creative male identified people, or with neurodivergent people, neurodivergent creative male people. And they also have that type of struggle. Embercole are making a comeback, spoiler alert, and we just had a photo shooting. And it was all of the effort and all of the work of our new drummer, who shall be unveiled very soon. And he took it upon himself when we just finally communicated, all of us, like, we all have a lot going on in our lives, and it's really difficult to find a time together as a band.
Tell me about that.
And also to like share the load, to assign the tasks to each of us. And he was like, okay, I will do this. And he organized everything. He went and scouted out locations, contacted a photographer in the period of like 2 weeks. And then afterwards, and the pictures look really cool. And afterwards I was like, thank you. I really appreciate that you did it so well, and everything turned out really well. You did it great. And he was like, oh yeah, it turned out well. And I'm like, it did not turn out well. It didn't happen because some stars aligned and all of a sudden, poof. No, you organized it. You worked on it. You made it. So accept the appreciation, please, because it's really important.
And I mean, it's insane that we are oftentimes so unable to do that. It's really insane. I mean, when we really think about what influence or what result that is for our own personal development, that we are not able to take recognition and stuff. Yeah, it's insane. I really struggled with that. When someone says thank you, I begin to be able to take it and say, yeah, thank you. It's insane how difficult that is.
Yeah, but it's so important.
It is totally important, the psychology perspective on that, how important it is for staying sane and mentally fit to appreciate what you've done. There are tons of studies for it. It's so important. And it's basically connected with mindfulness. When you say, I'm seeing and feeling what is here right now. And I think to mindfully accept and respect what you've done is crucial, I think, for your development, and to be able to be authentic. Because if you're always thinking that you are not earned what you have, then you cannot be authentic. The only way to be authentic is if you accept what is present, what is real. It's the only way to do it. And one thing that came to my mind as you taught us about the imposter syndrome, etc. There's one expression that I always take with me from one of the most known wrestlers. I'm a huge wrestling fan, Goldberg. And he in documentations, etc., he often said, if I am starting something, I will be at the top, because why should I start it then if I don't want to be the best? And I think this is the saddest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's so sad. And if you take a look at those people, when the cameras are rolling, then you see the sadness in their eyes, because they exactly know what that did with their lives and with their not being able to be happy and content. Because I would know several reasons to start something. The first one, just because it's fun.
Yeah.
I don't have to be good at it. If it's just fun, I do it. What the fuck? But it's really, really sad. And I think many of the high performers and those who really achieved huge goals, they're not happy. Because they have had the wrong goals and the wrong reasons to do it. Yes, they achieved it, but can they enjoy the success? Most of the times they can't. So from this perspective, I would say, why achieve something when you're not able to enjoy it?
Right.
There are also studies for it. When people on the deathbed are asked about the 3 or 5 things, it's always the same. It's always the same. Be happy. Try to be happy. Try to be with your loved ones and do things that you like and that you love. Much more. And everyone regrets that they didn't do as much what they love as they wanted or could have done.
Right.
Because they always think I have to do this and this. Capitalism tells us all day long that you have to achieve and have to, leisten in Germany. It's du musst leisten für die Gesellschaft. I mean, what can I say?
That was very well said. And talking about achievements, let's go now back to your achievements a little bit and tell me about how it was for you growing up. When did you start playing music, instruments, etc.?
I had a very, very good upbringing. I had a wonderful childhood with wonderful parents who are still here. So on this side, I'm really, really thankful. And I appreciate that very much. And I know that many, many people didn't have this upbringing. So I was always supported, although my parents always wanted me to play the piano. Because if you play the piano, you can play any instrument. But I just didn't want to do it. I played the flute as a kid, as in this generation everyone did. And then I started listening to rock and hard rock music because of my father. Status Quo was for me the turning point. And it's always it is my most favorite band in the whole world, and it will always be. And starting in the beginning of the 90s, I started to be interested in more rocking music than just hard rocking. A school friend of mine had Life After Death from Iron Maiden.
Okay.
And the cover just blew me away. It's always the same story. But I just couldn't make the emotional connection to the music that I had with the cover yet. And the bigger brother of my neighbor, which was also my school friend, he had been listening to metal for quite a while, and I was allowed to go through his CDs and lend some of them. And there was the first time I listened to Manowar, and I don't know what it was. He had some alternative stuff also, but I think Manowar was the most important thing I learned from him. And back then, actually, no one will believe me now. But back then there had been in Germany, it's a videothek. I don't know it's how to call it in English, but places where you could lend VHS cassettes. Then later on you could lend DVDs, and then everything stopped, beginning with Netflix and stuff. But back then you could lend CDs also. So I was often in the videothek checking out covers and lending CDs, which I then transferred into music cassettes. And I think that in this generation, I was born in 1981. I listened to much Eurodance for quite a while. Then my father came into my room and said, always the same stuff. Could you possibly think about anything else to listen to? And say, okay, I'll take a look. Then I switched to Green Day and Offspring.
Okay.
Never listened to Eurodance again. It was Smash from the Offspring. On the other side, it was Dookie from Green Day. Came out in the same year or the same time. And then the world changed for me. Then after a while, my father came in and said, okay, it's cool. Yeah, I like it. It was very hard for me that he liked it, because it was the time, the rebelling time.
Yeah.
I was very, very pissed that he liked it. But he came in and said, it's cool, but yeah, I've been listening for it for months now. So there's much more music around. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I began with Iron Maiden, and then it took me a little time to get the connection, because it was a huge step. The world opened for me, a universe. And since then, I don't know, 93, 94 or something like that, I've been listening to heavy metal religiously, as much as I can, all day long. That doesn't mean that I'm not listening to other music. I like Lana Del Rey, for example, very much. A little bit Amy Winehouse and stuff. So there's always stuff that I like to listen when I'm feeling it. But since then, my father brought, it's so funny when I think about it. He was a teacher, and he, at least once a year, he traveled to London with the class. And in London, back then in the 90s, you can get everything.
Yeah.
Instead of the rural area I'm from. And the only way to get CDs were you go to a store, or then you can buy CDs. And he brought me some CDs from London, which were a little bit cheaper there. It was Ride the Lightning from Metallica. It was Master of Puppets from Metallica. I guess some Megadeth was in there too. But this started it all for me because then really, riff-focused music was then the one thing for me, and it still is. And GODSLAVE is a thrash metal band, so everything starts with a riff and it ends with a riff.
Was your dad a fan of those bands too, or did he just bring you the CDs for you?
He was not a fan, but he was very, very open for everything. The first time that he was, I wouldn't say against something, but not going with me, was death metal, because as soon as there was no singing anymore, he was out of it.
Okay.
And that's totally good. But this was already the time when I didn't want to rebel, but I liked it that he liked stuff, So it would be the end of the 90s around. I would say my first CD, I'm not really sure. It was either Fighting the World from Manowar or Countdown to Extinction from Megadeth. But my very first CD was half of a sampler from Steamhammer Records. Because there were mixed tables with CDs, etc., which had some mistakes or something. And this was a double CD with only one CD in it.
Okay.
And I don't know, 5 Deutschmarks or so was it. So this was my very, very first CD, and those two were one of the first CDs. I'm really not sure what the first was. But yes, that was my upbringing. And from the beginning of the 90s, as 96, I've been to a Metallica concert, and from this day on, it was clear this is not the place for me. There on stage, this is my place.
Damn.
I need to go. I need to achieve that, and I need to go there. And this is the place where I want to spend my time on.
Yeah, and so you started writing your own riffs.
Yes, a little bit later then. with a cassette recorder and an amp in front of it with a microphone and stuff. So that's where it started. I began learning guitar from the first band I was in, was our school band. That was my first experience. Most rocky thing that we played was Green Day and Offspring. And there were a lot of pop songs that we did because it was a school band, and then I started in a band. I would say it was 2003, and it was a band called Icon. We laid it to rest 2 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But there was a lot of time between it. After my singer, Tommy from GODSLAVE, was in Icon too. We left the band, I don't know, 2009 or 10 or something like that, when 2008 GODSLAVE was founded. And then we were not part of the band, but we came together several years ago because there were some unspoken of differences between us, and we came together as people again, and that was very nice. And then we said, hey, let's bring it all on the stage again for one time only. Then the pandemic hit, and unfortunately, a year later, although it's 3 years ago, it's kind of difficult to talk about it. So bear with me. Around 3 years ago, I think it was, that our bassist ended his life.
Wow.
And that was for us very, very tough, because we would have had the last show together if there wasn't a pandemic. And at the end, we didn't have the last show with him. Because he was not there anymore, but he was there in spirit, and we showed a lot of photos from the times, and it was tough for all of us to not be able to finalize and close this chapter together with him.
Yeah.
And we had two drummers when we were in the band, so we had 2 different sets, two records, one with the one drummer, one with the other drummer, and between the change of the drum kit and so on. We showed a lot of pictures of him, and we stood at the corner of the stage with the first drummer, and we stood together there and looked at the pictures with the music, and we both just cried our eyes out before the second part of the set, because it was just so, it was a full moment for all of us, but it was not full. It was not the constellation we wanted to have. But it was a nice moment, and I really like the memory of that, because standing together as people after their 40s, having so much history together, growing up musically in a band together, and then being able to honor him and the history with him, that was very nice.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
But it does sound like you had at least a chance to process that together as well, to have your own goodbye and your own mourning and the tribute. That's really beautiful.
And I would say there weren't many people in the audience that didn't cry this day. That was okay, though, and no need to cry, you know?
Yeah.
But it was a very, very, very emotional evening for all of us.
Moving, I bet.
And it was great. I really, really like the memory of that. Yeah. It was a full circle moment.
We are very, I do the same. It's just me in this podcast, but I still talk about we. We have always been very open about mental health issues, and we have always urged everyone to get professional help, to keep trying. So I will link some resources in the show notes. There are incredibly many people in the metal community dedicating their lives to help people, to promote hotlines, resources. It's such an important thing to talk about and keep supporting each other, to keep being united through music. It has always been so important to me to have the metal community actually be the safe space that it's supposed to be, because metal has always been about the underdogs, the outcasts, all supporting each other, lifting each other up, and fighting the systems of oppression that lead us to these dark places. Now, It's not always like that. There's still a lot of abuse, a lot of discrimination, a lot of nasty stuff inside the metal community as well. So that is why I think it's really important to talk about that too, to put more actions behind those words of metal being so open and so supportive and so welcoming and so inclusive, because it has been such solace for so many people, because it has saved so many lives and can still continue to do so.
Yes, absolutely. I'm totally with you that there's, I would say, no more open community than the metal community. But nonetheless, we are all humans. With everything that this means. Being human means having a sort of upbringing, having all the burdens that you are carrying with you all day, and this is what you bring into the community. And this oftentimes means that not so good things happen, or maybe good things are not possible to happen because of your upbringing and because of experience that you'd had. So it is not enough to say that the metal community is so open and so cool and stuff. You as a human have to, if you want to be a part of it and you want to enjoy the advantages of that and the benefits, then you have to give something. If you want to receive something, you have to give.
And I feel like that giving can also be related to getting informed, learning more. Open your mind.
Yes.
Because
open your mind. Open your mind. Yes.
Exactly.
There's always some song.
Yes. And it's interesting because last summer at Tuska Forum, at Tuska Festival, we had Skinned talking about her music. And Skinned is a bit of a controversial artist. I really love her music. It's really good music. And the fact that she tells stories about serial killers is the controversial part, because we don't want to idolize them. We don't want to make them seem harmless or to make their story seem harmless. But when we were talking about that, she was very conscious of it. And she was looking through that, though. She didn't let this horrible crime that these people have made, she didn't let that stop her from looking for their humanity further and having some empathy for it. She explained that, of course, the first people that deserve respect and their stories told and justice are the victims of those crimes. But if we want to avoid these horrible things from happening again, if we want to prevent them from happening again, we have to have some empathy for the killers let's say,
Mhm.
and for the
Mhm.
perpetrators, and to actually find the source of their
Mhm.
pain, which led them to do these horrible deeds.
Yes.
That was crazy because there was a bit of, let's say, conflict in that interview, me coming from, but you're not glorifying. And then we came together in the empathy and compassion point, and it was eye-opening for me to understand her perspective of wanting to, through empathy, find help for everyone and find love for everyone, so that people don't then turn into these, she didn't want to use the word monsters, but that's kind of the narrative that's used a lot. And from her perspective, that's why she tells those stories, and that's why she makes this art and just brings those topics in onto the table and for people to discuss, which is also always really important. I think it's just about understanding each other more can help us so much.
Yes, totally. I'm totally with you. It's a very interesting topic when you talk about compassion. If something is happening, be it good or bad, it needs people to look further or deeper, because there is something called science. We have to understand stuff. And if we don't understand, we have no chance to influence it. So I'm totally with you. And furthermore, I think it's totally interesting in getting deeper into the mind of such a special person. They are special in a kind of way, because they are totally different to other people. And then coming back to, they're not so different than how I thought.
Yeah.
This person started as a totally normal person, and then there was a slight difference, a slight change that led to all this. And I think it's heavily interesting. Told about the possibility of the good in people. There is a book that I can recommend. It's from Rutger Bregman, an historian from the Netherlands.
Okay.
And he wrote several books. And this Im Grunde gut, it's in German. He opened the perspective on why people think that in a case of emergency, people will always turn on each other. That is the common perception, that you think, okay, if shit hits the fan, everyone will turn on each other and eat each other alive. This is not true. It's just not true.
Yeah.
Not the case.
Yeah.
If you really take a look from a history perspective on all that studies and all that experience, that most of the time the result is, oh, okay, that worked out. People worked it out together. So I was really hesitant to read that book or listen to it, as I mostly do, but I can really recommend it. It brings a little bit more, I would say, hope.
Yeah.
Hope in humanity.
Yeah.
Which is difficult at the times we're living in.
Absolutely. It is difficult sometimes to stay hopeful in these types of geopolitical situations that we are in.
Yes.
But we always see it in the news as well when there are natural disasters or stuff like that. There's always people helping each other out. There's always people looking for the missing persons, sharing their food in scarcity times, and all of those types of things. I was also thinking 2 or more things can be true at once as well. And in seeing all of the abuse allegations that come up sometimes, and the fans that have a very difficult time separating the art from the artist sometimes, and defending perpetrators and abusers, I think that it's also important to know and to realize that good people can do bad things, and also that the fact that we have a strong emotional connection to their art, in our case mostly to their music, doesn't automatically make them good people. Also, I think the systems of oppression like racism and sexism, misogyny, are so deeply rooted in us that a lot of us, even if we think of ourselves as good people, or even if we are good people, we can still have those. And it's important to notice them, to deconstruct ourselves before we act, before we say stuff, before we keep laughing at that racist joke, before we keep doing that racist accent impersonation that everyone finds so funny, before we keep making the next joke against women, that type of thing, before we look away when someone is doing harm to others. it's important to recognize that they are just behaviors that we grew up around as normal, and realize that they shouldn't be normal, that we should respect each other to the full extent of our humanity.
Yeah.
All of those things are really important to be aware of and to have kind of present every day.
I totally agree. And I think one of the biggest problems that we have in our society worldwide is that too many people are not interested in reflecting or are not able to reflect. Everyone is able to reflect, but they are not brought up to reflect. And if you are not reflecting, you are not understanding anything. You are just most of the time taking opinions from others. Because if you would reflect, you would create your own opinion, which means research and talking with people, etc. It's one of the, I think, biggest problems in our society, because reflecting is hard work, and who wants to do hard work with themselves?
True. Yeah. Questioning the status quo, questioning people's possible motives behind whatever they're telling us. Questioning politicians' motives behind the next war they're starting. Critical thinking is a difficult thing, but it's a nice segue to get back to the work that you do on the band show. You have a lot of really cool conversations with interesting artists. You most recently had a conversation with the Gems, and that's all-female supergroup that I find really interesting. It's really fresh. It's pretty new.
Yeah, the second record, I think, just came out, Year of the Snake. So listen to that. Yes, I'm doing the band show just for myself and for my band. I'm interested in learning stuff for my band, and I'm interested in talking to people that which music I like. As you know, it's a hobby, but this hobby has to be done right. And so I am really concentrating on people I want to talk with. Sometimes lack of people. And so I'm sometimes writing like Napalm Records, shout out to Lucas, and saying, okay, I have 2 slots to fill. Is there anyone interesting at the moment? And then we scheduled a talk with the Gems. It was just not the music I'm listening to. But I'm always open. It's an all-female band, and as an all-female band, from the start on, several questions I want to ask. And then when I heard that Mona, which I was doing the interview with, became mother in August last year, and she will probably have her small boy with her in the interview, if that would be okay for me, I said, all right, now we open a totally new topic.
Yeah.
And I cannot do this. I really cannot. So I wrote you, and thank you very much for the help and for the support, because at the end, this was one of the most interesting interviews I ever did.
Wow.
Because it was so different. It was different, and Mona is great. She's just great, and is very, very open. And one of the most rewarding feelings I have doing interviews is when I feel that, okay, the door is open. And it will not be closed. The door is open and I can come in.
Yeah.
And the room is open. And this is so great, because talking with, I don't know, Uncle Tom from Sodom or so, it was 20 minutes just. There was not much possibility to go in any room. But also there, I think there was a little space where I say, okay, he had the trust to be honest and open. And this is what I'm aiming for in all of my interviews. I hate small talk. I just don't want to spend my time with small talk. It's wasted time. So most of the time starting with Murphy's Law and asking what went wrong in the last year. Tell me about it. And with Mona, she started the interview with her son on her lap, and in the intro that I did after it, I was warning in asterisks. I was people that in the first part of the interview that you will hear a lot of funny baby noises. This guy really did it. He made all the noise that a small child can do, and it was just great. She was a little bit difficult for the first part, but because she couldn't concentrate so well on the topics. But after we did a little break and she laid the boy to rest, then she came back and she was totally open and told about and how difficult it was for her to tell about her pregnancy, because she is not only in the jams, but she's a full-time musician in musical projects, etc. And a little spoiler, for a long time, they just thought, okay, she's just drinking a little bit more beer than usual. So she had a beer belly, and she said, okay, that's good. That's good, because I don't want to tell them I'm pregnant, because they might not book me again.
Yeah.
She talked about all the accommodations that she then got from the production and stuff, so that she could sit and stuff. And she got a whole room, a whole flat, instead just of a hotel room, where she had a little kitchen for the little guy and stuff. So this is all, it's a great interview. So listen to that interview with Mona from the Jams.
I'm looking forward to it so much. I will link it as well in the show notes. And thank you so much, Benny. We should do this again.
Thank you.
No small talk.
Definitely.
Small talk is prohibited.
No, I really don't think that we need small talk to get into a deep conversation.
Yes, true.
The rooms are all open.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I really like how you describe that as well, because that is an experience that I have also shared. I have had the artists that don't want to open the door, and so they just give you the same rehearsed answers that they already have. And I also always want to go to the deep topics, so it's really frustrating when they do that sometimes. And other times it's just like, oh, we're going there? Okay, sure, why not? And how the artists themselves then are moved by that and are grateful for it. That is the most beautiful thing. I recently had it as well, however. It was a super weird moment, because it was also at the Tuska Forum, so it was live in front of an audience. It was imminent. It was this really big event. A lot of people really looking forward to it. I had 3 of the musicians, and one of them was going for, sure, let's go right into the deep topic. And the other one was like, no.
Okay.
Didn't give me anything. And I was like, oh my goodness, what do I do? Yeah, but it was all fine in the end. But yes, thank you so much for your time, Bernie. We have gone a long one. This is a long podcast episode. And so we shall do this again. And I will be very, very happy to support you with any other interviews. And I'll be very happy to come back to your podcast as well.
And you will definitely.
Yes.
Because the last time we talked about human rights, it was just a little bit spark of the beginning. So there's much left to uncover.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Much work to do. Benny, where can people find you out on the internet? You and your band and everything.
Everywhere. So you can take a look at www.godslave.de. You can find us on any channel with GODSLAVE Band, being it YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. Yes, we are still on Facebook. We have a very old audience, and we are all by ourselves. So everything we're GODSLAVE Band. So take a look at it, and we are bringing a new album out in September, and on the beginning of June we will start the first single. Yes, and the band show is available on every platform. It's mostly in German, but sometimes for me it has been two interviews in English, but there will be more depending on which cool artists will bring out an album and which I want to talk about.
Hell yes. Thank you very much, Benny. And thanks everyone out there as well for listening. This is the Bleeding Metal Podcast, and it is hosted, produced, and edited by me. I'm Kiki, GG7 everywhere. So don't forget to follow us and subscribe to the Bleeding Metal Podcast wherever you listen, as well as on YouTube. We are a video podcast. All of the links will be in the description, and I will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.